Good afternoon, guys. For those of you that watch my lecture, I apologize for the no sound. I didn't realize it until it was well uploaded. Hopefully, it didn't cause too much any issues. The lecture was still there. It was just the slides. The answers for some of the test questions were on there, but you didn't miss anything. There was no hidden messages or anything like that you missed. So do not worry. But today we are going to start our second to last wellness class, basically. So we have today, Wednesday, and then we have tomorrow, or not tomorrow, sorry. We have on Monday, and then we'll have a review for Wednesday, and then we'll take the quiz the following week. So it will be finals week. So we are here. We made it. Congratulations. You made it through almost through online college. So you guys are doing great. So today we're going to talk about wellness and disease. This is a little heavier topic. So we're going to get through this. Unfortunately, there's a big part of this lecture typically that we have a share question and answer type thing that we won't have obviously today, but if you guys have any questions or would like to communicate with me, feel free to reach out to me via email. I would love to chat with you guys. So wellness and disease. So not having a disease, so if you are healthy, does not necessarily mean that you are healthy or well. We've talked about kind of the dimensions that in the wellness categories, that just the absence of disease doesn't mean healthy. So as we go forward and talking, just because you don't have some of these things that we're going to talk about doesn't mean that you fall into the healthy category. But also, if you possibly might have one of these diseases, doesn't mean you're not healthy. So there is a kind of a yin and yang when it comes to this whole concept. The Center for Disease Control, the CDC, we're hearing a lot about that today, estimates that 70% of all diseases can be avoided by people making good lifestyle choices. So we'll talk about carcinogenics later today, obesity when it deals with diabetics, stuff like that. So they believe that 70% of all diseases can be avoided, and that includes the cold and the flu as well. Infectious diseases. So these are diseases that you can catch. So we have communicable, non-communicable. So this is a communicable disease. A disease that is communicable, you can catch this disease from something or someone. It comes from microorganisms. Microorganisms are everywhere, so don't freak out. We have billions of microorganisms living in our body that are good for us. But this is where they come from. And it kills more people. Infectious diseases kill more people than any other types of disease that there are. There's 6 types. There's more, but these are the main 6 types of infectious agents, otherwise known as pathogens. You have bacteria and viruses. Those are the most common ones that we hear about. You have fungi, protozoa, helminths. It's just another type of bacteria that attacks your cells. Then Rickettsia. Sorry, I have to make sure I pronounce those correctly. Again, that's another version of a virus that can attack healthy viruses, or healthy cells. Sorry. So we have leading causes of death in the U.S. So we have current. So we have heart disease, cancer, and stroke. So those are the top 3. In 2019, heart disease killed over 500,000 people, 640,000 people. I'm going to put a little asterisk by this right now. So there are some links on some websites that are not produced by the CDC that COVID-19 is currently the leading cause of death in the U.S. So I want to take the caveat away from this and say that just because right now, so if you look at today is April 22nd, so April 22nd, there might be more deaths of COVID-19 than there are heart disease deaths, or more cancer deaths, or more stroke deaths. That possibly could be true. However, we are looking at like your average death over the entire year, over the last few years. So in 2019, 18, and 17. So I just want to preface it that the current leading cause of death as of like 2019, so before COVID was a thing. It's heart disease, cancer, and stroke. Then you go on to the top 8. So chronic lower respiratory disease, accidents. So this is unintentional injuries, Alzheimer's, diabetes, and then influenza or pneumonia. Those are the top 8. And so all those top 8 have unfortunately over 100,000 deaths per year. Gastroenteritis and food poisoning. These symptoms, they are similar, and it's hard to know when one and when you add the other one. So both are very similar in symptoms when it causes nausea, vomiting, cramping, diarrhea, and fever. Those are both very similar, but how we get them are different, obviously. So gastroenteritis is a viral infection of the digestive system, so we caught it from something. Food poisoning is bacteria in the food that was consumed, whether it was undercooked, if it had contact with another food source that we're possibly not able to eat. So those are the two main differences. How to avoid this one, gastroenteritis, you want to avoid contact with people that have this because it is very contagious. Food poisoning, this one, unless you're cooking your food, if you go to restaurants or buy it, unfortunately, it's hard to avoid it because we don't know. It's not like it says it right there. But on page 393, there is a big old list of things that what to do to avoid food poisoning. So those two things when it comes to gastroenteritis and food poisoning. Cold and flu. These are probably your two most common viruses or diseases that we hear about. They're both caused by a virus. The cold is the most common infectious disease, so it's the most common one. Most of us catch it 5 to 6 times a year. Often, some of those times we don't even know that we have it. Runny nose, cough, sore throat, all that fun stuff. It can last about 7 days, so about a week. Sometimes it's only 3 days. Sometimes it could be up to 3 weeks, depending on the person's immune system and how they caught it in the rate of how infectious that actual cold is. Then you have the flu. Body aches, fever, loss of appetite. It's a respiratory disease, actually. The average person catches the flu about once a year. The CDC estimates that the flu death is from 3,000 to 49,000 people per year. And so the thing is, we always think about the flu, we think about vomiting or nausea or stuff like that. That's actually not the flu. That's something completely different. Oftentimes, it's associated with it because of our immune system's down, so we catch other things that cause us to have those symptoms of other issues. So just to be clear, flu is not necessarily nausea and vomiting. Avoidance. Obviously, we want to get enough sleep. That just helps build our immune system in general. Have a proper diet so that we have the proper amount of bacteria in our system to be able to fight those diseases. Avoid people with the flu. That's an obvious one. We're doing that right now. Not the flu, but just avoidance in general. Wash your hands. Humidifiers are always really great to keep your insides, for lack of better definition, moist and able to process things easier. And then get your flu shot. That's another one too. Hepatitis. So there are 5 basic types. So you have hepatitis A, B, C, D, and E. So A and E, usually they're not life-threatening. Doesn't mean they're any less painful or irritating. But it's the inflammation of the or infection of the liver. What that is, so it causes diarrhea, stomach pain, jaundice. That's the yellowing of your skin or your eyes even. Then you have hepatitis B, C, and D. These can be life-threatening. So that's your nausea, headaches, sore muscles, fatigue, jaundice. Again, just because you have these symptoms does not mean you have hepatitis. Just to be clear with that. So the causes of types A and E, this is a fecal or oral transmission. So it is gross, but if your food comes in contact with fecal matter, so if hypothetically, if there is a cross-contamination at a plant where they slaughter animals and then they package the meat right there. Just hypothetically, that could be a way that you could ingest hepatitis A or E. Types B, C, and D, this is a blood contamination or a blood transfusion, sharing the needle, sexual contact. Pregnant women can actually pass this on to their babies. This can lead to liver cancer, even liver failure as well. Avoiding hepatitis. Again, wash your hands, wash your food, get the hepatitis B vaccine. If you're traveling to South American, Asian, or African countries, you want to get the hepatitis A vaccine as well. Those are more common there. Do not share needles. I know the book says avoid sharing needles. Do not share needles. This is a more common thing with people that have diabetes or anything that have to give themselves shots or things like that. Having monogamous sexual relations or practice abstinence is also a huge way to avoid hepatitis, also any STDs as well. Again, practice universal precautions when it comes to first aid. We want to make sure that we are using proper materials, PPEs. I learned that stands for personal protective equipment. So yeah. Sexually transmitted diseases or STDs. There are a vast number of STDs. Majority of people that become infected are under the age of 25. It infects more people annually than other diseases besides the common cold. This isn't saying that there are more people that contract it. There are just more people that are affected throughout the year. So if you have it, if you have it 1 year, you will have it the next, and you fall under that category. There are many types, but we're going to talk about a few right here. So there's chlamydia is the most common one in the U.S. Infants can become infected from the mother at birth. Then you have gonorrhea. Infants, again, can be affected from the mother at birth. Syphilis can lead to premature deaths in not only infants, but as well as adults as well. And then HIV and AIDS. This is the most commonly known one as far as the media is concerned, because of all the money that we spent over the last 30-40 years, there's still no actual physical cure for HIV or AIDS. Diabetes. So there's three types. So there's two main types. You have type 1 and type 2. Type 1 is juvenile or insulin-dependent diabetics. So usually contracted as a child. That's how you develop type 1. They traditionally have to give themselves insulin shots every day, multiple times a day. And then your pancreas, because your pancreas does not produce insulin or does not produce the appropriate amount of insulin. Oftentimes this is a hereditary disease that is passed on from the mother or father to the child. Type 2. So type 2 is adult onset. So you traditionally contract this when you're an adult. So that would be anywhere from, I will call it 16 to whenever. This is non-insulin dependent. So traditionally they're not dependent on insulin. This is pancreas. Your pancreas cannot produce enough insulin, or the body does not use the insulin properly. And that's because 80% of the people that have type 2 diabetes are overweight. There's more people there's been a steady increase of people with diabetics, type 2 diabetic symptoms over the last 30 years because of where our country is going with obesity. Type 2 diabetics can use to control their disease with exercise, weight control, but many need insulin shots or medication to maintain the proper living style. The last one is gestational diabetics or diabetes. That's when a mother, when she's pregnant, she contracts gestational diabetes. Typically it goes away after birth, but it is something where your body's not producing or controlling or using insulin properly. There's a risk chart on page 409. Table 11.1 when it comes to some stuff, how you can prevent or if you are in risk for diabetics or diabetes. Cancer sites. So when we talk about cancer sites, we just talk about different types of cancer. So you have basal, squamous cell carcinoma are forms of skin cancer. That's a big thing. I had to look it up how to say, because I want to make sure I say it correctly. Skin cancer is the most common type of cancer. Traditionally, it's a 95% cure rate. They want to make sure that you can get it cut out or it's preventable. So that's the most common form of cancer. Highest death rate in cancer on both genders is actually lung cancer. So if you catch it, it has a very high death rate. Breast cancer is more prevalent cancer, the most prevalent cancer in women. 62% of cancer deaths in men come from prostate, colon, rectum, and pancreas cancer. That's where the men, and then 62% of women cancer comes from lung, breast, colon, ovary, and pancreas cancer as well. If cancer is caught early, while it's still localized, survival rate can be up to 90% higher for skin, colon, and rectum cancer. So we want to make sure that we get stuff checked out, get regular checkups. If we have a mole on our skin that is changing shape or something, we want to make sure that we are focusing on that and getting it checked out. Cancer symptoms and prevention. There's this acronym, caution. For the first one is C, change of bowels or bladder habits. A, sore that does not heal. Unusual bleeding and discharge, thickening of lumps in the breast or other parts of the body, indigestion or difficulty swallowing, obvious changes in a wart or mole, nagging cough or hoarseness. Again, be very cautious with this. It's kind of the WebMD symptom. If you Google your symptoms, it says you're dying. Just because you're experiencing one of these or two of these or three or a lot of these does not mean you have cancer. So I would encourage you to go see your doctor if you are at all concerned about some of these symptoms that you may or may not be having. Diet, exercise, avoidance of carcinogens, taking precautions are all preventable measures that can take to avoid cancer. Most cancers, I should say. Exercise and cancer. So cancer experts believe that 30 to 40% of cancers could be eliminated if people exercise properly, maintain proper weight, and follow proper diet plans. Basically maintaining a healthy lifestyle and avoiding carcinogens or carcinogenic substances, you could avoid having some versions of cancer. Exercise is believed to be beneficial at protecting against colon, breast, and prostate cancer as well. We made it. We're done. Hopefully you can hear me throughout this whole thing. Wellness and aging will be our last lecture. I'll have that posted on Monday. Remember, your PA log is due on Friday. That's 3 days from now. I believe it opens at 10 p.m. tonight. So you have 48 hours to submit it. Here's an Easter egg. I will give you 5 extra credit points if you on your this PA log, 5 extra credit points. So if it's 10, it'd be 15. What I want you to do is I want you to list some of the goals that you accomplished or didn't accomplish over this class. Be candid as possible. I didn't accomplish it because of this situation that we're in, or and give me why for both of them. Why you accomplished it. This is how I maintained my lifestyle. This is a diet that I stuck to, or I didn't stick to it because I was stuck at home. I wasn't able to choose my food like I was able to at Ludwig or even in my apartment. So be more descriptive, 3 to 4 lines on your goals. So I'll give you 5 extra points for that. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Remember that we will have the last lecture on Monday. There will be a review for Wednesday, and then we will take the test over finals week. So great seeing you guys. Have a great one. Bye.